It started with a video posted on social media last September, in which heavily armed men, with thick Mexican accents, claimed allegiance to the GJNG and accused Guatemalan police of stealing a drug shipment. "We're coming for you," said the masked subject recording the video, which was directed at police. "You have 24 hours to return everything." Alarm bells sounded. Was the Jalisco Cartel New Generation, Cartel Jalisco Nueva Generacion, GJNG, which has left a bloody trail across Mexico, making inroads into Guatemala? A few months later, an investigation came to light linking the GJNG to Guatemalan drug networks and military officials. And in March of this year, the U.S. Treasury Department alleged that an infamous Guatemalan drug clan smuggled cocaine, heroin and methamphetamine to the United States using the GJNG. For decades, Mexico's most powerful groups, including the Gulf and Sinaloa cartels, and the once mighty Zetas, have partnered with Guatemalan drug networks to ensure a steady supply of cocaine from Central America. Yet the reports of GJNG involvement are both new and distressing. The group is one of Mexico's most murderous cartels, and Guatemala still holds traumatic memories of when the Zetas stormed the country in the late 2000s and early 2010s, slaughtering rival traffickers, police and civilians in their quest for new territory. But the GJNG's approach appears to be different. The group has not created a permanent arms cell in Guatemala, nor has it made a rapid violent expansion there, as the Zetas once did. Rather, early investigations and intelligence indicate that the GJNG is striking partnerships with drug rings in Guatemala, active on the Pacific coast and the western border with Mexico, that receive shipments of cocaine from Colombia and Venezuela and deliver them to the cartel. No permanent cell, but links to Guatemala drug clans. Guatemalan authorities first detected the GJNG's presence in 2019, during an investigation into aerial cocaine trafficking that uncovered connections between the cartel and local drug smugglers. During that operation, dubbed Criminal Triangulo Criminal, prosecutors intercepted phone calls between members of a drug ring on Guatemala's Pacific coast and a Mexican national who authorities believe worked for the GJNG, according to Alan Agiadas, subdirector of the Guatemala Attorney General's Office's Anti-Narcotics Unit. "We presume he's from the Jalisco cartel," Agiadas said, adding that the individual was the only suspected GJNG member with possible links to Guatemalan drug groups detected during the investigation, which surfaced after a series of raids across Guatemala in late 2021. The probe found that the suspect was operating in Mexico and not within Guatemalan territory. "The GJNG is probably designating people to manage certain territories," Agiadas said. And this strategy is not limited to the Guatemalan Pacific. During a separate anti-narcotics investigation, which began in 2021, the Guatemala Attorney General's office identified another suspected Mexican drug trafficker working with a smuggling ring in the northern province of Petén, a vast jungle region on the border with Mexico long used to traffic cocaine north. This time, authorities confirmed the trafficker was a member of the GJNG who could be moving between the two countries, Agiadas told Insight Crime. "The GJNG probably has influence in Petén, as well," said Agiadas. The U.S. government, which often partners with Guatemala in anti-narcotics investigations, is also alert to the cartel's presence there. A State Department official told Insight Crime in an email that information from Guatemala indicates the GJNG has recently started to have a physical presence in Petén and Huehuetenango. The cartel's activity in Huehuetenango, a province in northwest Guatemala bordering Mexico, appears to be a partnership with a well-established drug ring known as the Huistas, one of the country's most enduring clans and a decades-old partner of Mexican groups. The same State Department official told Insight Crime that top Huistas members have coordinated with members of the GJNG in Mexico City to arrange drug shipments from Guatemala through Mexico. Agiadas said that joint investigations between the Guatemala Attorney General's office and U.S. authorities had uncovered links between the GJNG and the Huistas. He added that the dynamic is similar to the cartel's relationship with groups on the Pacific coast and in Petén, with the GJNG looking for local partners. The military, a tertiary connection. 3 years into the Criminal Triangle investigation, in December 2021, the Guatemalan Attorney General's office carried out over 30 raids in 6 provinces, arresting more than a dozen alleged traffickers implicated in the probe. Among those arrested were 3 officials from the country's military, who were suspected of using army intelligence to facilitate drug trafficking and slow the state's response in intercepting drug planes. The Attorney General's office has since charged the officials with drug trafficking, bribery, and revealing confidential information. The arrests raised questions as to whether the GJNG's expansion plans included recruiting Guatemala's security forces, drawing comparisons to the once powerful Zetas. The Zetas enlisted retired military officers and cultivated a vast bribery scheme used to secure police informants as part of a campaign aimed at usurping territory from Guatemalan drug networks in the late 2000s. It's a tertiary connection, said Agiadas. Less visible than the Zetas. In mid-2021, armed skirmishes erupted in a handful of small towns and along highways on both sides of the Guatemala-Mexico border, leaving vehicles torched and sounding the alarm on possible turf wars between drug groups. Weeks later came the video of the self-proclaimed GJNG members, threatening Guatemalan police and claiming to have cleansed one of the Guatemalan towns hit by conflict, La Mesilla and Huehuetenango. The video's dark tone was a throwback to the days of the Zetas. The Zetas emerged in the late 1990s, first as the enforcement arm of the Gulf Cartel and then as its own group. Founded by former elite soldiers, the group was known for violent displays, including beheadings and videotaped torture videos. When the Zetas arrived in Guatemala in the 2000s, they came with a strong contingent of Mexican recruits and entered into armed clashes with local drug traffickers, said Carlos Monocle, the country's former interior minister, 2010 to 2012. The Zetas went after some of Guatemala's then most notorious groups, including prominent family clans like the Leones, whose leader was killed by the Zetas in an attack using assault rifles and rocket-propelled grenades. The Mexican cartel also sought to displace the Huistas, but failed when the Huehuetenango group quashed an attempted attack in 2008 by Zeta hitmen. The Zetas also targeted civilians, infamously massacring a group of farm laborers at a ranch in Petén, decapitating most and using mutilated body parts to scrawl a message in blood to the farm's owner, who had purportedly stolen drugs from the group. During operations aimed at curbing the group's influence in the early 2010s, Guatemala authorities seized some 1.5 tons of cocaine, machine guns, assault rifles and bazookas from the group, along with a long list of police and military officers on the group's payroll, according to Monocle. The violence became worse than that of any other drug trafficking group before them, said Monocle. The GJNG appears to be taking a different path. As it stands, Guatemala prosecutors believe the cartel is operating discreetly and has no plans to replicate the barbaric incursions of the Zetas. Agiadas told Incite Crime that in all their current investigations, anti-narcotics prosecutors have not detected conflicts between Mexican and Guatemalan drug trafficking groups. The same State Department official also told Incite Crime that there have been no confirmed turf wars in Guatemala or along the Guatemala-Mexico border related to the GJNG. There is also little to suggest the GJNG possesses the same physical or operational capacity in Guatemala as the Zetas once did, or that the group wants to snatch territory from Guatemalan drug clans. There is a logic to this. Open conflict would run counter to the goal of securing new partners in Guatemala. Bloody turf wars draw attention, and in Mexico, the GJNG is already embroiled in dozens of disputes, including with heavily armed groups like the Sinaloa Cartel and Carteles Unidos, United Cartels. Seeking alliances instead of conflict with clans like the Huistas, a group that dominates drug trafficking in Huehuetenango and boasts an extensive influence network in politics, not only grants the cartel access to drug routes, but can also provide valuable connections with authorities. For the Zetas, the group's shockingly bloody campaigns eventually drew a fierce response from Guatemala authorities that drove the cartel back into Mexico. If the GJNG has long-term plans for Guatemala, it may pay to stay under the radar. They aren't as visible, said Agiadas.